The world is full of disturbing and strange stories. Some of the most chilling are the disappearances of children. Sudden, traceless, unexplained. 3 countries, 3 decades, 3 girls. Each of them was safe, and each was under the watchful care of their families. But all of them simply vanished, leaving behind not a single clue. The stories of Nicole Morin, Madeleine McCann, and Rebecca Reusch are not just cold cases. They defy common sense and logic. But the scariest thing is the incomprehensible. How? How can a child be abducted from the hallway of a guarded home? How can they be taken right under their parents' supervision? How can one cover their tracks in an age of total surveillance? Today, we will tell you 3 eerily similar stories that will shatter your idea of safety. Ready? Then let's begin. Toronto, July 1985. 8-year-old Nicole Morin, a cheerful, curious girl, the only daughter in a family on the verge of breaking apart. An ordinary summer day, an elite residential complex, a safe courtyard. Nicole puts on a swimsuit, grabs a towel, and leaves the apartment, heading to the pool where her friend is waiting. Since then, no one has seen her. She disappears right from her own home. How could a girl vanish in a place where everything was under control? Nicole Morin was born on April 1st, 1977. The only and long-awaited child of Art and Jeanette Morin, whose divorce was already brewing. Nicole lived with her mother on the 20th floor of a high-rise on West Mall in the Etobicoke district. On the morning of July 30th, 1985, everything was as usual. Around 10:30 a.m., Jeanette asked her daughter to go down to the lobby to pick up the mail. A few minutes later, Nicole brought her mother fresh newspapers and letters and started preparing to meet her friend Jenny. The girls had agreed to meet at the outdoor pool located at the back of their residential complex. Before leaving, Nicole called Jenny and told her to wait for her in the lobby. At about 11 a.m., Morin left the apartment wearing a peach-colored swimsuit, red shoes, and a green headband. In her hands, she carried a plastic bag with an orange blanket and a purple towel. And then, nothing. 15 minutes later, Jenny, tired of waiting for her friend, called Nicole's mother and asked why Nicole was delayed. Jeanette was babysitting other children at the time, and Jenny's words did not alarm her at all. She assumed her daughter might have gone to the pool on her own and quickly forgot about the conversation. But she shouldn't have. Jeanette only began to worry around 3 p.m. Nicole still hadn't returned home. At first, the mother panicked and searched for her daughter herself. Maybe Nicole had just gone to neighbors or got lost on the complex grounds, but she was nowhere to be found. Only at 6 p.m. did Jeanette call the police to report her daughter missing. The police arrived very quickly. They began searching the building floor by floor. They interviewed all residents and maintenance staff. They checked all 429 apartments in the complex. If no one answered, they broke down the door. But all in vain. The girls seemed to have evaporated. The only lead was the testimony of a woman who claimed she saw Nicole by the elevator. But then, nothing. She literally disappeared between the apartment and the elevator. And this was in a supposedly reliable and safe building, with a single front door, a locked courtyard, an internal elevator, and prosperous neighbors. Getting in unnoticed was almost impossible. Nevertheless, no traces. Not only the building, but the entire neighborhood was considered safe. Parents freely let their children play on the complex grounds, but only until July 30th, 1985. The largest search operation in Toronto's history began. A task force of 20 people continued active searches for 9 months, spending about 20,000 man-hours and nearly $2 million. A full police base was set up at the building. Volunteers posted thousands of flyers with the caption, "Have you seen Nicole?" And not a single lead. Nicole's disappearance briefly reunited Jeanette and Art Morin. The father hired private detectives, and the mother consulted psychics. But nothing yielded results. By November 1985, the police had questioned 6,000 people, including hundreds accused of sexual crimes. A reward of $100,000 was offered for Nicole's safe return. Dog handlers, divers, investigators from other regions, and over 900 residents of the district were involved. The area was combed square by square. They checked the nearby highway, sewage system, garbage bins, and neighboring houses, but nothing. No witnesses, no evidence, no suspects. At various stages, the police and media developed numerous theories about Nicole Morin's disappearance, from shocking to utterly incredible. After Nicole disappeared, the police searched her room and found a diary with a suspicious phrase she had written months before. "I will disappear soon." This entry gave rise to the hypothesis that the girl might have run away voluntarily because of her parents' divorce. But would anyone leave home in a swimsuit carrying only a blanket and a towel? Art Morin still believes his daughter is alive, but there is no confirmation. But what if Nicole is really still alive but does not remember the circumstances of her abduction and doesn't realize she is the missing girl? The investigation was complicated by girls who at different times went to the police claiming to be Nicole Morin and accusing their own parents of kidnapping. All these stories turned out false. Some sought attention, others suffered psychosis. Nothing helped solve the mystery. During the investigation, the dark past of the Morin family was revealed. Suspicion fell on Nicole's father's brother, who in 1961 killed their sister Gertrude. But the man had a solid alibi. He was in Quebec at the time of his niece's disappearance. The trail went cold again. According to one witness, 45 minutes before Nicole's disappearance, a stranger, a blonde, middle-aged woman with a notebook in her hand, was seen in the building. Police worked long on a facial composite but never found the stranger. Who was she? What was she doing at West Mall? And did she even exist? Or did the witness invent her to attract attention? Two days after Nicole disappeared, an 11-year-old witness heard a desperate scream of a little girl in a wooded area near Etobicoke. Her family called the police, but the search yielded nothing. In 2014, the woman was haunted by nightmares related to Nicole and decided to report it to the police again. Investigators searched the area again and again. No leads. In 1988, 41-year-old American Lovey Lee Riddle confessed to killing 30 people and abducting Nicole. Police carefully checked his statements, but found no confirmation. Nicole's disappearance was not unique in Canada. Shortly before, 9-year-old Christine Jessup and Sharon Morningstar Keenan were abducted and later found murdered. And a year later, 11-year-old Allison Parrott. Francis Carl Roy was arrested in Parrott's case, and police tried to link him to Nicole's disappearance, but failed. Despite many different theories, police kept returning to the idea that the culprit was someone from the building residents. The chance that a random criminal was in the elevator or lobby is practically zero, investigators said. But they could never prove anything. Soon after the investigation ended, Art Morin quit his previous job as a driver and devoted his life to searching for his daughter. He even founded a small agency that conducted searches in Canada and the USA. But after several decades, the man realized he would hardly ever see his daughter again. Jeanette Morin died of a heart attack in 2007, never learning what happened to Nicole. The Morin case was classified as cold, but Toronto police and organizations dealing with missing persons continue to keep it in public view. Since 2001, images of an aged Nicole created from her childhood photos have appeared online, hoping someone might notice or remember something. Videos recreating the last minutes before her disappearance were also created. Despite years of investigations and thousands of theories, no physical evidence has been found that could solve Nicole's disappearance. Nicole Morin's story proves that tragedy can happen even in the safest place. But what frightens not only the fact of the child's disappearance, but that for nearly half a century, no theory has been confirmed. What happened to the girl? How did the kidnapper manage to remain unnoticed? Is this the perfect crime or police helplessness? More than 20 years passed since Nicole Morin disappeared. The world has changed drastically. Surveillance cameras appeared, digital tracking, international databases. It seems now such a thing is impossible. People became smarter and more careful. To disappear without a trace would no longer work. Or would it? Portugal, May 2007. 3-year-old Madeleine McCann, a cheerful, smiling girl, disappears right from her bed at a cozy resort. And again, not a single clue. Millions of eyes are fixed on this case, and only one question: how could this happen in the 21st century? Madeleine McCann was born May 12, 2003, in Leicester, England. She was the eldest child of doctors Kate and Gerald McCann. Later twins, Sean and Amelie, were born. In May 2007, the McCanns, together with friends and their children, went on vacation to the Portuguese resort Praia da Luz. Thursday, May 3rd, was the 6th day of their week-long vacation. Around 7 p.m., the McCanns put the children to bed. The room where the children slept faced the parking lot. The window was closed with shutters, and Madeleine's bed stood against the opposite wall. Around 8:30 p.m., Kate and Gerald McCann went to dinner with friends at a restaurant located only 165 foot from apartment 5A, where the McCanns were staying. Throughout the evening, the adults took turns checking on the children. At 9 p.m., Gerald looked into the bedroom. Everything was in place, but the door which he had left ajar was now wide open. He didn't think much of it, and before returning to the restaurant, closed it again. But if he had known the door didn't open by itself. At 9:30, their friend Matthew Oldfield offered to check instead of Kate. He entered the apartment, saw the door still open, but hearing nothing strange, left. Around 10 p.m., the mother finally went to the children. The bedroom door was again wide open. As Kate approached, a draft slammed the door shut. Inside the room, silence. The window, open. And in little Madeleine's bed, only her toy. Kate ran outside in panic, screaming, "She's gone! Madeleine is missing!" Searches began. Police, tourists, hotel staff, all combed the resort. But there was no trace of the girl. Police arrived around 11:10 p.m. and made many gross mistakes in the first hours of the investigation. The crime scene was sealed too late. At least 24 people had already been in the apartment. the kidnapper's traces were destroyed. Madeleine's toy, left in her bed, was not tested for the kidnapper's DNA. Border guards received photos and descriptions of the girl only several hours later, and many neighbors were never interviewed. CCTV footage was not reviewed. The kidnapper left town or even the country unnoticed. That same night, the McCann's friends contacted British media, and news of Madeleine's disappearance instantly spread worldwide. The girl's photograph appeared everywhere. Kate and Gerald gave endless interviews and also created the Madeleine Fund, which raised over £2 million sterling. Celebrities, the Pope, and Scotland Yard got involved, and the McCanns organized a private investigation. But soon the story of Madeleine's disappearance turned from tragedy into a show. Instead of support, a wave of suspicion, condemnation, and insulting headlines. Kate McCann was accused of leaving the children unattended and even of being too calm for a woman who lost a child. Journalists and readers decided, if she doesn't cry, she's guilty. Meanwhile, investigators conducted extensive searches around Praia da Luz, questioned hundreds of witnesses and potential suspects, but the case didn't move forward. The investigation stretched over years. Theories multiplied each year, from a simple robbery to a carefully planned murder. Here are just a few. The first suspect was Robert Murat, a real estate consultant living in a villa nearby. Several witnesses allegedly saw him near the apartments. There was no evidence, but the media accused him of murder. Later, he won defamation compensation. Between 2004 and 2006, several attacks occurred near Praia da Luz on British families. A stranger broke into houses and attacked girls aged 7 to 10. But none of these cases were connected to Madeleine's disappearance. When police brought specially trained dogs, they reacted to blood traces in apartment 5A and the rental car of her parents. DNA samples found in the trunk partially matched Madeleine's DNA, and the McCanns were named suspects. British and Portuguese media published various rumors and made baseless accusations, but evidence was insufficient. In 2008, all charges against Kate and Gerald were dropped. However, Gonçalo Amaral, the investigator who led Madeleine's case from May to October 2007, insisted the girl died accidentally in the apartment, and the parents decided to cover it up and dispose of the body. The McCanns sued him for defamation, but their lawsuit was dismissed. Maybe the investigator knew more than we think. Shortly before Madeleine's disappearance, burglaries increased in the area. Witnesses spoke of strange men near apartment 5A, and phones of some suspects were recorded near the hotel. There were suspicions, but no arrests. The assumption that the girl might have left the apartment herself searching for her parents was quickly deemed unlikely. She wouldn't have gone far. No traces were found. In 2020, German investigators named the main suspect in Madeleine's case, Christian Bruckner, a sex offender and drug dealer. In 2007, he lived near the resort, and his phone was recorded near the apartments at the time Madeleine disappeared. According to his girlfriend, the day before Madeleine's kidnapping, he said, "Tomorrow I'll be busy in Praia da Luz. The job is disgusting, but it will change my life. For some time, we won't be able to see each other." The day after Madeleine disappeared, he re-registered his car to a new owner. Too suspicious. Investigators concluded Bruckner killed the girl and dumped her body into the Arade River 50 kilometers from the hotel, but subsequent searches yielded no results. Still, Bruckner, who is now serving time for another crime, remains the main suspect in the McCann case. Despite years of investigation and loud statements, Madeleine is still officially considered missing. Like in Nicole Morin's case, girls repeatedly appear claiming to be Madeleine, and all turn out imposters. The public has not forgotten Madeleine. Several books have been published about her disappearance, including works by investigator Gonçalo Amaral and Kate McCann, and in 2019, Netflix released a documentary film. Also, photos of the grown-up girl are still generated to help identify her years later. Her parents still believe their daughter is alive. Madeleine McCann's disappearance became one of the most famous child disappearance cases in history. The investigation caused unprecedented public resonance, spanned several countries, and is still ongoing. But despite all efforts, Madeleine's fate remains unknown. In the fall of 2025, Christian Bruckner may be released. Maybe this will give the case a new turn, or put a final stop to it. Not only young children can vanish without a trace from their own home. Even a teenager, almost an adult girl, with a phone in her pocket and dozens of cameras on the streets, is not safe. Berlin, February 2019. 15-year-old Rebecca Reusch, an ordinary schoolgirl, a BTS fan, the youngest daughter in the family, her niece's favorite, the life of the party. But one morning she simply disappears, right from her sister's home. No answers, only more questions, and one suspect. Rebecca Reusch was born September 21, 2003, and lived with her parents, Brigitte and Bernd, in Berlin's Neukölln district. Her world revolved around family, friends, and the Korean pop group BTS. And she dreamed of becoming a flight attendant or a model. She had two older sisters, 27-year-old Jessica and 23-year-old Vivian, both living separately with their families. On the evening of February 17th, Rebecca stayed at Jessica's with her husband Florian. Nothing unusual. She often spent nights at her sister's and loved spending time with her 2-year-old niece. Jessica went to bed. Rebecca settled on the living room couch, planning to leave for school early in the morning. But something went wrong. At 5:45 a.m., Florian returned home from a corporate party and, according to him, went straight to bed. At 7 a.m., Jessica left the house with her daughter without checking if Rebecca had woken up. 15 minutes later, Brigitte called Rebecca to wake her, but reached voicemail. Then she called Jessica, who explained Rebecca was still asleep. The lessons that day were supposed to start later than usual. At 7:46 a.m., Rebecca's phone last connected to Wi-Fi. Before that, she managed to send a photo to her friend on Snapchat. In it, she was wearing a BTS hoodie, pink jacket, ripped jeans, and black and white sneakers. It seemed she was just getting ready for school, but she never arrived. At 8:25 a.m., her mother called Rebecca again and again, reached voicemail. Then she decided to contact Florian. He did not answer immediately, but later claimed Rebecca had already left. At 8:42 a.m., Brigitte sent a message to her daughter on WhatsApp. Delivered, but unread. By 9:40 a.m., Reusch did not show up at school, and after lunch, did not return home. The parents began to panic, and that very evening reported their daughter missing to the police. Not only the girl disappeared, but also everything she had that morning: clothes, backpack, wallet, phone, camera, and the purple blanket she slept on at her sister's house. On February 21st, Rebecca was officially declared missing, and 2 days later, her case was transferred to the Homicide Investigation Department. The main suspect immediately became Florian, the last person who could have seen Rebecca alive. He claimed he was asleep and saw nothing, but digital evidence says otherwise. Around 7 a.m., he was already browsing adult websites. Then the police checked traffic cameras. What they saw shocked them. Florian's car appeared twice on the A12 highway between Berlin and Frankfurt Oder. On the morning of February 18th, the car was heading towards Poland, and on the evening of February 19th, returning to Berlin. The purpose of the trips? Man remained silent. Bernd Reusch knew something about his son-in-law's secret affairs, but refused to explain in detail. Only said they were unrelated to Rebecca. The media began to suspect Florian of drug trafficking, which his sister indirectly confirmed. Moreover, female hairs and fibers from the missing blanket were found in Florian's car trunk. But even this evidence was still insufficient for charges. Then testimonies appeared from several witnesses who allegedly saw Florian's car in a wooded area near Kummersdorf, close to the A12 highway. More than 20 police officers, criminologists, divers, and dog handlers joined the search efforts. For a month, they searched an area of about 50 square kilometers, hoping to prove Florian's guilt. But, again, no traces. Florian was arrested twice, in February and March 2019. But both times he had to be released due to lack of irrefutable evidence. Investigators were sure Rebecca did not leave her sister's house alive, but they couldn't prove it. After some time, new witnesses appeared in the case. They claimed to have seen Rebecca on February 18th at a bus stop in Berlin, and on April 4th in Krakow. There was hope the girl was still alive, but it was a false alarm. The testimonies were not confirmed. Searches of Jessica's and Florian's house were repeated in 2021 and 2023, and again, silence. Rebecca Reusch's disappearance investigation was repeatedly criticized in the media. The main complaint was the choice of the photo used for identification. Police chose a picture from Instagram, which was processed to such an extent that the girl was almost unrecognizable. And the strangest thing, this photo is still used in official materials. During the investigation, police received more than 2,000 messages. People shared observations, guesses, and rumors. Each lead was checked, but none helped solve the case. As a result, 4 theories emerged. Each could explain Rebecca's disappearance, but none did. Investigators repeatedly returned to one point: Florian, the last person who saw Rebecca alive. He is the only suspect, and his actions raise the most questions. But despite obvious inconsistencies in his statements and suspicious trips, the investigation hasn't officially charged him. February 18th is the birthday of BTS member J-Hope, and fans might have arranged an informal event to celebrate. The Reusch family assumed Rebecca might have left the house early to meet other fans, and then disappeared. This theory explained the disappearance of the blanket and camera, but was immediately dismissed by police as unpromising. Rebecca had a mysterious acquaintance online, Max, with whom she corresponded on Instagram. After her disappearance, he suddenly deleted all his accounts. Coincidence? Police took up this lead but proved nothing. Brigitte Reusch once voiced a terrifying guess. Her daughter might have been kidnapped and held by force. Perhaps she is alive, but cannot ask for help. This theory sounds more like a thriller plot, and no evidence or leads have confirmed it. Although Florian's involvement seems the most obvious and plausible theory, the Reusch family does not consider him guilty. Like the McCann's parents, the Reusch family faced waves of condemnation and hatred. They were suspected of involvement in their daughter's disappearance and of covering for Florian. Yet they are sure. From the start, the police went down the wrong path, ignoring alternative scenarios. And what if Rebecca is still alive? Maybe she could have been saved, but the chance was lost. Rebecca Reusch's disappearance became one of the most mysterious and high-profile criminal cases in Germany. It has been discussed on TV, podcasts, and social networks, often compared to the Madeleine McCann case. In 2021, RTL Channel released a full-length documentary film. But no progress. Where is Rebecca? What happened on the morning of February 18th? Why, 6 years later, has the police still not been able to prove Florian's guilt, who didn't even have an alibi? So many questions, and not a single answer. Nicole Morin, Madeleine McCann, Rebecca Reusch. They were all safe and disappeared without a trace. Thousands of witnesses, and not a single clue. Many suspects, and no evidence. One would think progress would have made such disappearances impossible. But no. Technology is powerless against human cunning and monstrous circumstances. These stories remind us, at any time, in any country, in any society, there is room for inexplicable horror. We try to find answers and solve mysteries not only for the victims, but also for ourselves, to make sure this doesn't happen to us. As long as society remembers missing children, the chance to find the truth is still alive, even if the truth turns out to be the scariest part of their stories. What do you think really happened to the missing girls? Who is responsible for their disappearance and even their death? Share your theories in the comments, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss new videos. See you in the next episodes.